Let me start somewhere ordinary. It's late. Not late, late. Just late enough that you're tired. You've got 2 tabs open, maybe 3. You're not planning a big trip. You're just trying to decide where to stay. Both places look fine. The photos are good. The prices aren't wildly different, and yet you don't book. You reread something, scroll a little, open Google again. Nothing is obviously wrong. But something doesn't quite settle. So you close the tab and tell yourself you'll come back to it tomorrow. That moment shows up everywhere in travel. And for a long time, I couldn't quite name what was happening there. I'm Kay Walton, founder of Smart Pineapple. I work with small hotels, vacation rentals, and unique stays that want to get seen, get booked, and stay human in a world that keeps trying to automate the parts of hospitality that have always needed people. This is Seen Booked Sane. A short strategy, a quiet truth, and one way to think more clearly about how guests decide. From the outside, that moment I just described looks like hesitation, but it's not indecision in the dramatic sense. It's quieter than that. It took me a while to understand what I was actually looking at. When bookings slow down, most operators reach for the same fixes. More traffic, a better offer, another reason to book now. That instinct feels logical. It's also the instinct that kept leading me in the wrong direction. Because that moment of hesitation, it isn't neutral. It shows up later, in ways most operators don't immediately connect. Every day that hesitation exists, you're paying for traffic that won't convert. There's a story from Expedia that finally made this click for me. They noticed people getting all the way to checkout and then disappearing. Nothing broke. No error messages, just quiet drop-off. When they looked closely, it came down to one optional field labeled company name. People didn't know what it meant. Some entered their bank name. That caused billing mismatches. Payments failed. Expedia didn't explain the field. They removed it. That single change resulted in roughly $12 million in additional annual profit. Same traffic, same intent. What stays with me about that story isn't the number. It's how invisible the problem was. Nobody complained. Nobody asked a question. They just left. This is the part where I get a little stuck because I've watched really good operators chase the wrong fix for years. They tweak pricing, they add offers, they pour money into traffic, and they never touch the one thing that's quietly undoing all of it. Not because they're careless, but because uncertainty doesn't feel like a problem you can grab. It just feels like something's off. Go back to that traveler with the tabs open. They're not doing a formal comparison. They're trying to answer something simpler. Is this easy? Is this clear? Am I going to regret this? When deciding feels heavy, people don't push through. They postpone. This is why simplifying decisions almost always outperforms adding incentives, not because guests don't like deals, but because thinking is expensive. Reducing cognitive load increases revenue without increasing demand. That part took me longer to accept than I care to admit. I've seen beautifully designed pages perform worse than simpler ones, not because the design was bad, because it asked the brain to work too hard. Confusion hides inside beautiful things all the time. And here's the uncomfortable part. When we misdiagnose hesitation as a traffic problem, we don't just waste money. We build systems that make the problem worse. More steps, more messaging, more explaining, all of it well-intentioned, all of it increasing the weight of the decision. This is where that neutral hesitation shows up. In repeated guest questions, last-minute support messages, in discount dependency, in staff interruptions you thought were just part of the job. Those aren't separate issues. They're symptoms, unfinished decisions. All of this happens before a guest ever interacts with you directly, before a message is sent, before a question is asked. Conversion is what happens when uncertainty finally dissolves. So the next time bookings feel slower than they should, don't add an offer. Picture that traveler with the tabs open and ask yourself, what is the one moment in your guest journey where you feel confident, but they still hesitate? That's usually where the answer is. If this way of thinking resonates, I write about it every week on Substack. No hacks, no hype. Just clear ways to understand how guests decide. The link is in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening.